Well, hello there, it's Beards and Bangers, and today you join me on a very, very cold Saturday morning. I'm going to do some servicing work on the Kestrel, which is behind me over my right shoulder. So I've moved Poseidon right over there. You can probably just about see him in the distance. Started up, no problem at all. This thing got me up here, no problem at all. But the hill up here is about 4 miles long from Westcott in Buckinghamshire, just outside Aylesbury. And the back end of this is a very wet road because there's a lot of water runs off the fields all year it happens. And this thing was very twitchy, but we got here in one piece. Very nice to have that car. So I was hoping to crack straight on with servicing the Kestrel. So I've got some special oil, which I'll show you in a moment. I won't show you it quite yet because we'll wait until we can actually do some work. But the battery is dead, although it is taking a charge, which is good news. So I've got it on charge. So this is the reality of the situation we're in. A non-heated barn, freezing time of year, so letting the battery charge up. I also tried to use the jump pack, but that also is dead as well, and that's going to take a long time to charge up because the little cold warning came up when I plugged it into charges. We'll get all that stuff charged up. The Kestrel is taking charge, so hopefully it'll start under its own steam. Why do I need to start it? Why can't I just service it without starting it? Well, there's two reasons. Number one, I want to put some Forte flush through the engine just to really get all the crud out of it. As most of you will know, and if you don't know, here's a fact. The A-series engine has a gearbox in the sump, so it's got a 4-speed manual gearbox, and that gearbox is actually in the sump, so the gearbox shares the oil with the engine. So that oil's getting a fair bit of abuse, so it's really important to make sure that engine is thoroughly cleaned out. I also want to change the coolant. Now, you may be thinking, this car's potentially got head gasket failure. Well, we don't know that. I haven't got a compression tester up here, although I may ask young Alex from Alex's Assets to bring one over when there might be a few visitors to the barn in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, so we might do a compression test in a couple of weeks. We're just going to get the oil out to examine it, and also the car is still drivable. It's still, I can still move it, so it's good practice. No idea when the oil was last done. Alex, the other Alex I bought the car from, no idea when the oil was last done, so we'll get some oil in there. I'm going to use, I haven't actually got it, it's in another can, but I'm going to use Penrite's Classic Mini Oil, which has got the right additives in for a gearbox in sump. Now, I've always used Kestrel Classic on older cars like that, but I was just chatting to the guys at AJF. They said, no, you actually use this one. It's better when you've got a gearbox in the sump. So I'll be using a few products today. I've got Forte Advanced Motor Flush to go in first. What I'll do first, though, is I'll drop the coolant out and then refill with just plain water. It's probably going to have to be bottled water because the tap up here has frozen up. So I'm going to put a dishwasher tablet, a finished dishwasher tablet in as well, because that's got lots of chemicals in. That's going to really work its way around the cooling system and clean stuff up. If that doesn't work, well, it'll obviously give us a clue as to what the water pump's doing, but we can examine the coolant as well. Is there any oil in that, any nasty smells that could tell us we've got head gasket failure? And if it looks like we have, then it is time for a compression test. And then if that shows up, yeah, head gasket, then it's head off. Not a terrific difficult job on these because you haven't got masses of breather pipes and vacuum hoses and stuff like that on these. It's just literally whip the head off, change the gasket, back on again. Hopefully it won't need skimming if it does need doing. So we'll wait for things to charge. We'll pick up this video again in a second when we've actually got some charging things. Right, so got it moved. Yeah, so you've got a 7mm Jubilee clear. I'm just going to use that because it's a bit easier. We'll get that off, let it drain out, and then we're going to refill with water, cold water, and get a dishwasher tablet in there. So I'll go ahead and do that right now. Right, so we'll do it care. I'm just feeling very cold today, so I'm just going to do this very carefully with the dugger. And that has worked. A bit of bulldog on the Jubilee clip first. I wouldn't normally use a power tool in that location, but it's just... it's coming out nice, yeah. That's good. It's quite crusty as well, so just having that the impact gun very carefully. On it, just loosens it off. So that feels loose. Let's have a look. I can't do two things at once. This rubber is very, very old indeed. I'm very nervous about doing this, but it's got to be done. Right, so I'll just carefully try and prise it off. That's not been off for a while. That is for sure. Oh dear. So I'll just try and get the screwdriver in the end, at the end, and then pry. Oh, we have got some movement, that's good. Pain in ass, this. And there we go. So I'll let that, oh dear. Shit. Right, so yeah, always have your catch can ready. I forgot to do that, but yeah, just a bit of jiggling around with the screwdriver carefully. Obviously don't stab your hose and then break it, then you've got to buy a new one. Seems alright, rubber seems okay, doesn't seem cracked or anything like that, it's just old and grimy and a bit dry. And then yes, we'll let that drain out, we'll refill, put a dishwasher tablet in, we'll then put the Forte in the engine and let that flush, run it for about 20 minutes. I think that's probably as much as I dare. It is running rather rich, and I have got some twin carbs to go on this car, so I don't really want to spend lots of time fiddling with the carburettor today. I really just want to drop the oil out, see what it looks like, drop the coolant out, see what half the coolant's on the floor now, but never mind. We'll see what that looks like, and then it's rusty, I can tell you that. And then we'll replenish everything, 50-50 antifreeze water in the radiator, some Penrite classic mini oil in the engine, and yeah, and then we'll do a compression test in a couple of weeks' time. Right, I couldn't really tell what was draining out because most of it's gone on the floor, as you can, well, I'll show you in a second, but that was my fault for rushing what I'm doing. So I'm just trying to get the hose back on. Of course, it's being awkward, so I'm just going to get a little bit of furry liquid and lubricate everything, and then hopefully we can get this hose back on. Which it has now done, actually. There we are, that's good. So we'll just clip it up. Oh, man. It has actually warmed up a fair bit, which is really good. So I will take my hat off now, so you can see my wonderful locks that I've got. And then we'll just I'll hold you there. Stay there. Is that Jubilee clip actually turning? I don't know. Right, I'm going to pull the hose off again. Oh, I always thought A series were easy to work on, but the last time I worked on one I was a bit younger and possibly a bit slimmer. Let's examine our Jubilee clip. Right, are you actually working? Oh, you're very stiff. So I'm just turning it with the screwdriver. I don't think that's moving. Right, well, it's a bit crusty, so we'll clean it up. We'll get a bit more bulldog on it. Let's let that soak in for a sec. So there's our Jubilee clip. I think it's corroded too much. So I'm just turning it with the screwdriver, and that doesn't appear to be tightening at all. Let's try backing it off again. Right, new Jubilee clip time. Right, one new hose clip later. Thankfully Austin had one which saves a lot of aggro. I won't open it up too much because I had opened it up too much when I undid it, but that's probably because I used a dugger. So maybe using a dugger to get a hose clip off isn't a good idea. I've just got to get this blooming thing on. Right, apologies, this is not really a video of anything in detail, it's just me at the back of my head. But I know I need my head torch. Makes life a lot easier and one's head a lot warmer. There we are, I can actually see what I'm doing now. Right. Okay, so finally that's on. We can now refill and put our dishwasher tablet in, put the Forte flush in the engine. We'll try and run the car up for about 20 minutes, and then we can drop the oil out. Right, so we'll just carefully refill the radiator. I have got a Haynes manner, so I probably could check the capacity, but we'll just do it by eye. Right, a bit more, not a lot more, that's good. Right, so that's the radiator filled up, so we'll just put a dishwasher tablet, won't go in. In with it as well, so that'll just start, you can already see it starting to bubble in there. So we'll get that bit done, so that's resealed. We'll then get some Forte advanced motor flush, so that's this stuff. So as I've said before, and I've done this 2 or 3 times on video before, as I've said before, oh, trouble with cold hands, you see. Oh. So we'll put our Forte, that dissolves, that's on tight, blimey. My God, that's really... Christ. Cool, bloody heck. That is on proper tight. Right, I need to get this off first. So we'll do it off camera because it's just opening an oil cap, but I might have to give it a bit of persuasion. Eventually came off. That was on really hard. I was going to get a bit of rubber grease and put it around here just so that doesn't happen again, because obviously I've got to close it up again to do the flush. I don't want that left open for 20 minutes while I'm flushing the engine. So while that's off, we'll close the rubber grease up. That can stay there because we'll need that when we put the filter back on. But what we'll do now is we will now dump the Forte into the engine. And what I'll do, I won't do it on camera, but we'll actually run the we'll just move it slightly just so the gears move and this Forte gets in all the kind of crevices of the gears. So yeah, so good stuff this. I haven't used Forte on the radiator because that is quite, Forte coolant flush is quite aggressive and it will make a bit of a mess. So let's just carefully put that back in. Yeah, I think actually it's just a very tight lid. We'll just put it on loosely like that. Right, let's get the car fired up and then we'll just let it run for about 20 minutes, if we can get it to idle nicely, that is. So a bit of choke, we'll let it warm up a bit, and then we will dump the oil out, dump the coolant out again, and then replenish with, so coolant with 50, I think I said earlier, 50% antifreeze, 50% water. We'll use spring water for that, rather than tap water from around here. Chilton's water, we're on limestone chalk hills, it's full of problems, and then obviously we've got the Penrite's classic mini oil to go in the engine itself. So we'll have a little break for a minute and then come back. Right, so we're flushed. What I've noticed is there should be a hose coming off here on the radiator. Luckily nothing vented out because there's a little expansion tank down there, and that's where the hose should go onto. So we'll have to fix that at some point. I'm pretty sure that should be in place. I haven't opened the radiator yet because obviously the engine's hot. But that does mean it's time to drain the oil. So dipstick out or loose, so we don't have any suction. And then I'm only on a jack because I'm going to drop the car back down again so that the oil drains out. And I've got a, what have we got on here? 24mm spanner. So it's based, I think it's 15/16 inch if we're doing it in the old-fashioned way. So we'll get that on there. And hopefully this isn't, oh god, that's stiff. There we are. So we'll just carefully bring the oil catch about there, I reckon. We don't want to repeat what happened with the BMW or the Mini. So we'll just easily, I want to grab the sump plug. And then what we'll do is we'll drop the car, we'll get the filter off, and then we'll drop the car down so the rest of the oil drains out. So hopefully this is going to be fairly liquidy, although we are leaning to one side. There we go. And I haven't got any on the floor. Amazing. Miracles do happen. Right, so we'll let that drain out, and then I'll quickly do the filter, which you don't really need to see because it's up there if you want to know where it is. It's a spin-on type because it's a later A-series engine, so it's there. I can't move, I'm stuck. So so I've got an oil filter tool to do that. Yeah, that's pretty black coming out of there, but it's not full of water, which is a good sign. But of course we are flushing the coolant, which we won't do yet because the engine's still warm, so we don't want to drop the coolant out of a hot engine because that could be disastrous. So I'll give this a clean up, get the filter off, put the filter back on, drop the car down, and then leave the jack where it is. It's on the front subframe because there's no jacking points down the side. And then we shall refill with our very expensive oil and restart with the coil plug off, so we just get some pressure back into the system. And then that's sort of mini service done on this car before we start doing other bits and bobs later on. Right, that was fun. So I didn't film getting the oil filter off because it didn't actually come off properly. So we had to take the oil filter housing off. Luckily, the lads across the road had a chisel to pry it off. It was on there properly. So we've got to make sure we put some grease on the housing before we put the next oil filter on. Here's the old one. It's sort of wrapped up a little bit. So I had to actually put a chisel through it and leave it off. And advice, it was really that stuck. So we'll put this to one side carefully. And I'll just refit this, and then we'll then we'll hopefully get going. That was a mission and a half. So we'll get the new oil. It is Penrite's Classic Mini, but it's just in an old Valvoline jar. So we'll fill this with some oil, put a bit of rubber grease on the seal, and then we can drop the car down just to get any of the old oil out that's left in the sump, because of course the car's at a bit of an angle. Right, that's full, that's good. So hopefully you can see that. So oil in the filter. Bit of rubber grease on the seal, and now I'm going to very delicately lie down. Let's move these tools, and this will now hopefully be a lot easier. And we'll just do it on finger tight. And it is fitting, that's good. So it is the right oil filter, which is just as well because the old oil filter is mangled. Alright, that's on finger tight, that's all it needs to be. That is all it needs to be. So we'll carefully just drop the car down just to make sure there's no more oil in there. Let's have a look. This is where there's probably oil pissing out everywhere. Yeah, there's a bit of residual oil coming out, that's fine. Obviously the oil in the filter won't go anywhere because that's vertical, they're completely vertical in these cars. So we'll just let that drain out for another few minutes, refill. We won't do the coolant tonight now because the oil filter saga has taken up all the time, and that's on good enough. So I'll do the coolant another day, but it's not a bad thing, just letting that dishwasher tablet kind of permeate around the system. The water is looking quite gunky. I should really have some antifreeze in there, but I think in the barn it's going to be all right overnight. So give me a minute, get the old oil out, and then we'll refill, and we'll restart without the coil pack on just to build up some pressure. And then we're done. Blimey, this is turning into a mission. Right, we're drained, so we can actually do this without the car slightly jacked up. We'll just give that a bit of a wipe around there. And we shall refit. Hopefully, I don't know how much you can see actually, probably nothing at all, but you get the idea. So yeah, sump plug back in carefully. Let's get the oil catch out of the way. Then we can get, this is very tricky doing this one-handed because oil catch out of the way. What did we say, 22mm socket? So I'll get this done up, just finger tight again, doesn't have to be torqued or anything like that. And then we'll refill with fresh engine oil. See you later, yeah. Austin and my visitor James have just now gone, so we're going to fill with some oil. I'm not using a funnel, I'm rushing because the light's about to go. It will just suddenly go, and then all will not be well, because the light in this unit is not the best, and we are in the middle of nowhere, so there's no kind of light pollution or other light like that. So I'm going to put 4, it's obviously there's some in the filter already. We'll go with 4 litres roughly. Oh, that's too much. Let's quickly sponge that down. And I said in my New Year's update, I want to kind of lose weight to be a bit fitter, because I'm feeling exhausted just doing this, and this oil filler cap, I wrecked my shoulder doing it. Right, that's not going anywhere for some reason, so let's put dipstick back in. Just let that drain through for a minute. I'll pick the camera up and show you. It's just kind of, I probably just put it in too quickly. Yeah, you can just see it's just sitting on the rockers, so we'll let that just drain through, and then I'll fill the rest up, and then we'll just crank it over, and that'll be job done for today. So a bit jerky there for you doing that. Didn't think about you guys, sorry. Right, so I've ended up going about 4.5 litres of oil. One thing with this Penrite's Classic Mini, it's incredibly thick. Obviously it's designed for an older engine, so you've got to be patient with pouring it. It's not like sort of 0W30 or so the stuff you're putting in sort of ZRs and 75s. It's a very thick oil, which an older car engine oil is always thicker. Kestrel Classic's very thick as well. So while we're here, we'll just have a quick look in the coolant, because that's now cooled down. And we've got, yeah, it's murky, so hopefully that we'll leave that liquid in overnight. I shouldn't really, but if I start doing the coolant again now, we're going to just lose light. I've got to get rid of oil and stuff like that. So once that oil has disappeared in there, I'll put the camera on the tripod and just we'll take the actually we'll do that now. We'll take the coil plug. No, we don't need to do that. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. We'll just fire it up for 10 seconds, move the car back, get the ZT in, and I'm going to go to the pub, because I've been up here in the cold all day. That oil filter, luckily I had people up here who could help me, because I couldn't get a purchase. I didn't really want to take the grill. I think if you take the grill off, it's a lot easier, but the 2 screws holding the grill in at the bottom are not in a great place, and I don't really want to start taking stuff like that off, because sometimes it doesn't go back on again, or you find little bits of rust where the screw should fix into. So we will come back to that another day. So next job, once we've just given this a test fire in a second, is going to be draining the coolant. I will do it off camera. It's exactly the same as I did this morning, so we'll just undo that hose down there again, drain it out, probably put a hose pipe through it this time as well, do the same with the top hose too, so that everything gets flushed through. I won't do that on camera because it is pretty straightforward, unless in the comments down below tell me if you want me to do that. I will happily do it, and then we'll get the twin carbs put on it, get it running a bit better, then actually have a proper look over the car and see exactly what needs doing. We're going to need some electrical work doing, that's for sure, because the switch gear on the dashboard doesn't really do very much. So yeah, very excited about this project though, and I know a lot of you are very pleased that I've got this project, rather than sort of, you know, messing around with the early 2000s MG Rover stuff, which I still love, and that's going to be plenty of content coming up on that. But it is nice to have a classic again, it really is. Right, I'll get you set up. I think that oil has now just about diminished down there, so we'll get the camera set up so you can hear, and that'll be it. Right, so I'll just put this lightly on for now, rather than sealing it down, because that is a bastard to get off that thing. Oh, we are recording, that's good. Right, we will need some choke this time, because the car has been sat for a while. We've got oil pressure, good oil pressure, that's back to where it was. Excellent, that's good news. That sounds still very smoky. What we'll have a quick look at, hopefully you can hear me over the engine, is just looking at those seals. So the banjo fixing, I'll grab the camera actually, it's probably a bit easier. So what I'm just doing is looking at where we had to take off the oil filter housing and the banjo. So that doesn't appear to be leaking. There is weep of oil on there, but that's when we took the fixing off, and I can't see anything leaking so far from the actual oil filter housing bit as well. Oil filter looks good. We have made a bit of a mess on the floor, but I'll have a clean up tomorrow. So there we are. Kes has gone one step further, so that's good, just good practice, just to clear that oil out. You know, it's not good driving a car with oil, especially when you've got gearbox in sump. So hope that's going to make a massive difference when we start getting things like carb set up. The great news is it would appear that the head gasket hasn't gone, because there was nothing I could see in the coolant. I didn't see a lot of the coolant because most of it went on the floor, which is very foolish of me. But the oil was clear. It was old. It was very old, the oil, very runny, very black, very degraded. But there was absolutely no evidence of any mayonnaise in there. There's no evidence of mayonnaise in the oil filler cap. What else it could be, why that radiator was bubbling in that previous video I did, I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. If the head gasket goes, the head gasket goes, and then you get a new one, do it, and you know it's done. But yeah, I'm happy with that. Obviously a bit not quite, the video didn't quite go the way I wanted, because the oil filter just took up so much time, most of what you didn't see, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, there we are. There's Kes running happily. The idle's still too high, but the idle adjustment just isn't having any of it. So I'll wait till we get the new carbs on it before I start worrying about that. It's pointless getting that carb set up perfectly just to move the car in and around the yard. If you want to see what's going to happen with this car and my other projects, please hit that subscribe button and bell notification if you don't already do so. Give us a thumbs up, drop a comment down below, and share with your friends as well. It's always greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching once again, and I'll see you again very soon on the next episode of Beards and Bangers. Goodbye.